Wesley Ford didn't believe in fate until the night he walked into the Langston Foundation Gala and locked eyes with the woman who was about to change everything. The ballroom gleamed in soft golds and creams, chandeliers dripping crystal light across the sea of glittering gowns and tuxedos. Wesley adjusted the cuff of his black tailored suit as he stepped inside, nodding at a few familiar faces. He was used to these things: charity events, photo ops, handshakes that meant very little. He was the kind of man who donated 7 figures to a cause and never expected his name on a plaque. His time was money, and tonight he'd much rather be anywhere else. Until her. "Good evening, sir. Do you need help finding your table?" Her voice was warm with a hint of nerves. She wasn't like the other women here: no diamond necklace, no air of polished pretense. She wore a simple navy dress, her curly brown hair pinned up with a few strands falling loose around her face. There was something real about her, something that made the room tilt. Wesley glanced at her name tag, Eden Walker, Volunteer Coordinator. "My name's Wesley Ford," he offered, watching her eyes widen just a little. Not in recognition, just surprise. She didn't know who he was, and for some reason that made him smile. "Mr. Ford," she said, scanning her clipboard, biting her lip as she found his name. "You're at table 8. Right this way." He followed her through the crowd, pretending not to notice how she walked a little too fast, or how she straightened her spine when someone important passed. She was trying to blend in, but she stood out to him more than anyone in the room. As she reached table 8, she turned. "Here you are. If you need anything—" "Wait," he said before she could disappear. "You're not just a volunteer, are you?" She hesitated. "I coordinate the volunteers. I also helped organize some of the event logistics." Wesley tilted his head. "So basically, this entire night is happening because of you." She let out a quiet laugh. "I wouldn't say that." "I would." For just a moment, she held his gaze. There was something in her eyes: curiosity, challenge. Then she dropped it. "Enjoy your evening, Mr. Ford." He watched her walk away, then sat down at the table, ignoring the other guests' chatter. He barely touched his food. His eyes kept finding her, weaving through tables, checking on guests, whispering directions to the waitstaff. She was everywhere but never sitting down. Halfway through the night, he excused himself, found her near the side entrance, clipboard in hand. "You haven't eaten," he said. She blinked up at him. "Excuse me. You're running this entire event and you haven't eaten." "I'm fine. Come sit with me." Her brows rose. "You're joking, right?" "Do I look like I'm joking?" Eden glanced around. "I'm working." He stepped closer. 5 minutes. Just 5. She stared at him, and for a moment he thought she'd tell him off. But then she sighed, tucked her clipboard under her arm, and followed him back to table 8. It was awkward at first. The other guests gave her curious looks, but Wesley didn't care. He poured her a glass of sparkling water and cut into his steak. "This is the part where you tell me your entire life story," he said, half teasing. Eden shook her head. "That's not how this works." "How does it work?" She looked at him. Really looked at him. "You're not used to people saying no to you, are you?" He grinned. "Not really." "Well," she said, picking up her fork, "get used to it." He laughed. A real one. It echoed in the back of his throat and made her eyes soften. Just a little. They talked. About travel. Books. Why she chose nonprofit work. Why he hated being called a billionaire in the press. She didn't ask him about money or power. She asked him about his mom. About what scared him. He hadn't had a conversation like that in years. When the night ended, she stood. "Thank you for dinner, Mr. Ford." He stood too. "Wesley." She smiled. "Wesley." He wanted to ask for her number. He wanted to see her again. But something told him she wasn't the kind of woman who'd be impressed by a private jet or a gold bracelet. So he said the one thing he meant the most. "You're the only person who made this night worth showing up to." She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded once, softly. "Good night." He watched her walk away again. And for the first time in years, Wesley Ford left an event not thinking about business or board meetings or net worth. He left thinking about a woman who wore a navy dress, never sat down, and didn't care that he was a billionaire. 3 days later, Wesley stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of his corner office, staring out at the Manhattan skyline but not seeing it. "Sir?" His assistant, Camila, hovered just inside the doorway, holding a stack of reports. "Board wants you on the call in 20. He nodded without turning. "Push it to 30. She hesitated. "Already did." When she left, he finally moved, crossing the sleek marble floor to his desk. The gala had come and gone, along with the usual social media buzz and press write-ups. But he hadn't read a single headline. His mind kept circling back to the same place, her. Eden Walker. It wasn't like him to be distracted, especially not by someone he'd spoken to for less than an hour. But there was something about the way she'd looked at him, not past him, not through him, at him, like she saw things other people didn't bother to ask about. He pulled open a drawer and took out the event program. Her name was listed on the third page under event staff. No contact info, no leads. He tapped the desk once, then picked up the phone. "Camila, get me the director of the Langston Foundation. Use whatever excuse you need. I want a meeting scheduled this week." By Thursday, Wesley was stepping into the Langston Foundation's headquarters, an old brick building wedged between two glass towers in Midtown. He wore a navy wool coat over his suit, but the wind still bit at his jaw as he climbed the steps. Inside, the space was warm but modest. No polished marble here, just exposed brick, recycled wood desks, and the faint scent of brewed coffee. He liked it more than he expected. A woman in her 40s greeted him at the lobby with a clipboard and a firm handshake. "Mr. Ford. I'm Dana Harlow, Executive Director. I didn't expect to hear from you after the gala. I've been thinking about the Foundation's mission," he said. "Your staff impressed me." She gave him a curious look. "That's kind of you to say. We're small, but we're passionate." "I noticed," he said. "I'd like to learn more. Maybe explore a partnership." Dana led him through a hallway filled with framed photos of neighborhood programs, after-school tutoring, food drives. As she talked, he nodded politely, but his eyes were scanning for Eden. It wasn't until they passed a glass-walled meeting room that he caught sight of her. She was inside, a pencil tucked behind her ear, listening intently as a volunteer spoke, her hand scribbling notes in a spiral-bound pad. She hadn't seen him yet. Dana noticed his pause. "That's Eden. She's the soul of this place. I gathered. You know her. We met briefly. At the gala." Dana tilted her head. "She mentioned someone from the donors' table who insisted she sit and eat. That was you." "I didn't realize insisting on basic human decency was a rare trait," he said dryly. Dana laughed. "Around here, it's gold." They finished the tour, and he sat through a short pitch about future programming. He nodded, asked the right questions, and promised to follow up with his foundation's legal team. But as they walked back toward the lobby, he slowed near the meeting room. Eden had just stepped out, flipping through her notes. She looked up and froze. "Hi," he said. She blinked once. "You're here." "I am." Dana watched the exchange with mild curiosity. "I'll leave you two to catch up. Eden, when you're done, I need those numbers before 5. Eden nodded, still facing him. When Dana disappeared around the corner, she crossed her arms. "You tracked me down. I prefer to think of it as strategic philanthropy, right?" she said. "Because billionaires are known for their subtlety." He grinned. "You remembered. I remember a lot of things, like how you said I was the only thing that made that gala worth attending." "I meant it." She looked at him carefully, weighing him. "Why are you really here?" "I want to get to know you." "You don't do small talk, do you?" "Not unless it gets me to the good part." She didn't smile, but something in her expression shifted. "This place isn't what you're used to. I'm aware. So if this is just curiosity, it's not." She searched his face. "I don't date donors." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Then don't think of me as one." "Impossible." I can leave a check on the counter and walk out. No strings. Or, he added, you can meet me for coffee. She hesitated. Do I look like someone who has time for coffee? I checked the staff schedule, he said. You're free tomorrow after 3. Her eyes narrowed. You're serious. Always. She exhaled, then gave a small shrug. Fine. 1 hour. I'll take it. As she walked back toward her office, she glanced over her shoulder. Don't be late. Wesley stood in the middle of the nonprofit hallway, the sound of phones ringing and printers humming around him. For the first time in weeks, his mind wasn't on acquisitions, deadlines, or board votes. It was on Eden. And he had no idea what he was walking into. Only that he wasn't walking away. The coffee shop Eden chose was tucked between a laundromat and a used bookstore, the kind of place with scratched wooden tables and mismatched mugs. The windows fogged slightly from the warmth inside, and the scent of cinnamon and espresso clung to the air. Wesley arrived 2 minutes early. He wore a charcoal coat over his suit and took the corner table farthest from the door. No security, no entourage. He didn't want to give her an excuse to walk out. She stepped in at exactly 3 o'clock, brushing a curl behind her ear as she scanned the room. When she spotted him, no smile crossed her face, but she walked over and unzipped her windbreaker. You're punctual, she said, sliding into the seat opposite him. I was afraid you'd change your mind. I almost did. Why didn't you? Eden shrugged. Curiosity. And the fact that you didn't offer to send a car or book a rooftop lunch. I figured you'd see right through it. I would've. A barista passed by with a tray and Eden flagged them down to order a black coffee. Wesley added a cappuccino without looking at the menu. So, she began, lacing her fingers around the mug once it arrived. What exactly are you looking for? And be honest. I'm not here to pitch a merger or expand your budget, he said. I'm here because I haven't stopped thinking about you since last Friday. That's not an answer, she said. That's a line. No, he said. A line would have been telling you I've never met anyone like you, which is also true. She studied him. You know what worries me? I can guess, but I'd rather hear it. You've probably never had to chase anyone. Not really. You're used to yes. You've been rich for a long time, which means people stop telling you the truth. It makes you hungry for honesty, but only until it becomes inconvenient. I don't want convenience. Then what do you want? He leaned forward, voice quiet. I want to see what happens when someone actually challenges me. You don't even know me. Then help me change that. She hesitated, then sat back. Fine. One question. Why aren't you married? He blinked. That's direct. Exactly. You want honesty? That's mine. He tapped a finger against the table, considering. Because I used to think I'd never find someone who wanted me for anything but the empire. I built it from nothing. When you do that, people see the result and not the man behind it. That's a convenient answer. He chuckled under his breath. Then how's this for inconvenient? I got engaged once. It ended when I caught her negotiating a prenup with my attorney behind my back. She thought I'd never find out. Eden's brow lifted slightly. How long ago? 3 years. And you haven't dated since? I've dated. But no one worth the second drink. She looked away out the window, her jaw tightening. What about you? He asked. What about me? Why aren't you with someone? Because I don't believe in settling. Neither do I. No, she said. You don't believe in being told no. Not the same thing. Wesley let out a breath. You're not easy to impress. Good. I'd hate to think I was predictable. He smiled. You're not. You're sharp. Unafraid. You ask real questions and you don't care if the answers are messy. She considered him for a long moment. Do you realize how rare it is for someone like me to be in a room with someone like you and not have to perform? Not have to smile the right amount, laugh at the right time, make you feel comfortable. I'm not looking for comfort. Then what are you looking for? He leaned forward, elbows on the table. I'm looking for a reason to believe that something real can come out of something unexpected. She didn't respond right away. A silence settled between them, but unlike before, it wasn't tense. It was measured, intentional. Finally, she said, "I don't trust easily. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to let me earn it." She finished the last sip of her coffee, then stood. "You get one more chance. After that, if I catch even one hint of arrogance or manipulation, you disappear. I won't need more than one." She stepped back, pulling her jacket on. "I'll be the judge of that." As she turned to leave, Wesley rose with her. "Eden," she paused. "I meant what I said. You're not predictable, but you're also not invincible. You don't have to carry everything alone." She gave him a look he couldn't quite read, part warning, part something else. Then she walked out into the late afternoon chill. Wesley sank back into his chair, watching her through the window as she disappeared into the crowd. He didn't know what came next, but for the first time he wanted to find out. Not because she was a challenge, but because she didn't need him, and that made him want her even more. Rain streaked the windows of Wesley Ford's penthouse as he stood in his kitchen, sleeves rolled up, watching water bead against the glass. The storm rolled over Manhattan with a low growl, echoing through the high rise like a warning. His phone buzzed on the counter. He didn't check it. He was waiting. Eden had agreed to dinner. Not a restaurant. Not a hotel rooftop. His place. He hadn't hosted anyone here in over a year. Not even Camila had stepped more than 2 feet past the front door. And yet, he'd spent 2 hours prepping the space. Not because he was trying to impress her, he already knew that wouldn't work, but because she was the kind of woman who noticed everything. And she deserved to see the version of his life that wasn't curated for the press. When the elevator dinged, he moved toward the door, heart doing something it hadn't done since his early 20s. He opened it. Eden stood there in ankle boots and a dark gray coat, damp curls clinging to her cheekbones, a tote bag slung over one shoulder. She looked like she'd walked straight through the storm instead of calling a car. "You walked?" he asked. "It's 5 blocks. I'm not made of sugar." She stepped inside, taking in the pristine space. The living room opened into massive glass walls overlooking the skyline, the kitchen glowing with soft under-cabinet lights. But there were signs of life here too, books stacked beside the leather couch, a half-finished chess game on the side table, a steaming pot on the stove. "I didn't know billionaires cooked for themselves," she said, slipping off her coat. "Only when it matters." He took her coat and hung it beside his own. She pulled her damp sleeves up and wandered toward the windows. "Your view is insane. I like seeing the city from up here. It reminds me how small everything is." She turned. "Small?" He met her eyes. "The power, the money, the noise. None of it matters if there's no one to share it with." Eden didn't respond right away. Then she walked to the kitchen and leaned on the island. "What are we eating?" He lifted the lid off a cast iron pot. "Braised short ribs, roasted parsnips, and I made the bread myself." She raised an eyebrow. "Okay, now I'm impressed. I'll take it." They ate at the long dining table tucked beside a wall of windows. The city glowed beneath them, gold and gray and blurred by rain. The food warmed them both, but it was the quiet between their words that surprised him most. It wasn't awkward. It was peaceful. Halfway through the meal, Eden set down her fork. "I need to ask you something." "Go ahead." "What happens when this stops being new? When the chase is over?" He set down his glass. "Then I keep showing up. The real work starts after the novelty wears off. And you think you're ready for that? I've spent my whole life building empires I couldn't trust. I'd rather build something real, even if it's slower." She studied him. "You say all the right things. That's because I mean them." She stood and walked toward the window again, arms crossed, her reflection faint in the glass. "My mother spent her whole life giving more than she had. She ran food drives when our own pantry was empty. Loved men who took and never stayed." Wesley stood too, keeping his distance. "I'm not them. I know that. But I don't know what it means yet." He took a step closer, voice low. "Tell me what you need. I need proof that this isn't just adrenaline for you. That you don't just want me because I said no. He reached into the sideboard drawer and pulled out a small envelope. Then come with me this weekend. She turned cautious. To where? A school we helped rebuild in Queens. I'm speaking to the students. I want you there. Not as a date. As a partner. Eden's eyes flicked to the envelope, then back to him. You're serious. I don't bring people into my work. But you're not people. You're the person who makes me want to do this better. She reached for the envelope, fingers brushing his. All right. I'll come. The storm outside thickened, thunder echoing in the distance. Wesley didn't move. You could stay tonight. I'll take the guest room. Eden shook her head. Not yet. Not because I don't want to, but because I need to know this isn't just a beautiful illusion. He nodded once. Then I'll wait. She stepped forward, rising on her toes, and pressed a kiss to his cheeks, soft, deliberate. You're not what I expected, Wesley Ford. Neither are you. The next morning, they stood side by side in front of a crowd of teenagers. Eden wore a navy blazer over jeans, holding a tablet of notes. Wesley introduced her as the woman who made him rethink everything he thought he knew about leadership. Afterward, as they walked back to his car, she slid her hand into his. No cameras, no curated smiles, just the quiet decision of two people choosing something real. A month later, he proposed inside the Langston Foundation's garden during Spring Volunteer Day, the same place they'd first seen each other in daylight. No grand audience. Just dirt on her shoes, laughter in the air, and a ring hidden beneath a packet of wildflower seeds. She said yes before he even finished the question. On their wedding day, she wore a silk dress and walked barefoot across the grass toward him. He waited under the archway, no suit jacket, sleeves rolled to the elbows, eyes never leaving hers. They didn't need a rooftop or a jet or a ballroom. They just needed each other. And this time, Wesley didn't walk away from the gala with another empty memory. He walked away with his wife. The morning of their wedding anniversary, Eden woke to the scent of cedarwood and the sound of soft music drifting from the living room. Light filtered through the linen curtains of their Brooklyn brownstone sunlight that hit the edge of the bed where Wesley had been only minutes earlier. She sat up, brushing back her hair, and smiled without realizing it. Don't come out yet, he called from the other room, his voice low and teasing. I'm not great at following directions, she called back, already swinging her legs over the side of the bed. She walked barefoot down the hallway, each step creaking gently against the old wooden floor. When she entered the living room, she stopped. The entire space had been transformed. The rug was rolled back, candles flickered on the windowsill, and a low table was set with 2 place settings and a covered silver tray. A string quartet played softly through the speakers, and on the far wall, a projector cast a slow-moving slideshow of photographs from the last year, images of them laughing in the garden, building bookshelves in her office, dancing barefoot in the kitchen. Wesley stood beside the table, barefoot himself, sleeves rolled up, holding a single white tulip. One year, he said, offering the flower. She took it. This is a lot for breakfast. It's not breakfast. She tilted her head. Then what is it? It's the beginning of our second first date. She narrowed her eyes, amused. You're resetting the calendar now? I'm rewriting it, he said. Because if the last year taught me anything, it's that we're not the same people we were when we met. And I don't ever want to stop discovering you. She walked toward him, the tulip still in hand. You remembered my favorite flower. I remember everything you never said out loud. They sat together as he uncovered a tray of warm almond pastries, fruit, and 2 mugs of rich black coffee, her favorite. No staff, no catered display. Just him. Always him. After they ate, he pulled her gently into the center of the room. There's no music, she said, glancing at the speakers. There's always music, he whispered, sliding one hand to her waist. They swayed slowly, her cheek resting against his chest, his fingers tracing quiet circles against her back. Neither spoke. They didn't need to. Later that afternoon, they walked through the community park Eden had helped renovate, where children now rushed between murals and garden plots. Volunteers waved when they passed, but no one interrupted. Everyone had grown used to seeing them together, he in his rolled sleeves and boots, she with her clipboard and boundless energy. Wesley knelt beside a raised planter bed, checking on the soil. "We need more basil here." "You say that every time," Eden said, laughing as she crouched beside him. "It's because you want to justify buying that ridiculous copper watering can." "I already bought it." "Of course you did." He brushed his hand against hers. "This place is yours." "It's ours," she corrected, standing. "You gave it the funding. I gave it the fight. You gave it heart." They stayed until the sun began to dip, casting a golden hue over the benches and treetops. As they walked home, fingers laced, Eden glanced at him sideways. "Do you ever miss it?" He looked at her. "Miss what?" "The noise. The boardrooms. The press." He shook his head. "I still make deals. But I don't live for them anymore. You gave me something better to build." When they reached the brownstone, he led her up the stairs and into the rooftop greenhouse he'd constructed over the winter glass panes framed by reclaimed wood, filled with herbs, succulents, and flowers she'd chosen months ago. She stood at the center, speechless. "I was going to wait until tonight," he said, pulling something from his back pocket. She turned. It wasn't a ring. It was a key. A small, brass key with a ribbon tied around the loop. "You bought me another house?" she guessed. "No," he said. "You bought it, with your own name on the deed. I just made sure it was the one you wanted." Her eyes widened. "How?" "You circled it in the catalog. Twice." She stared at the key. "You're impossible. I'm yours." She launched herself into his arms, laughing, kissing him with abandon against the warm glass. He caught her, both hands at her waist, grounding her as the greenhouse filled with the soft hum of the city below. Later that night, they lay tangled beneath the sheets, the storm from the night before long gone. His arm curved protectively around her waist, her fingers tracing the scar on his collarbone he once said no one noticed. "We're different now," she whispered. "Yes, but better." He kissed the top of her head. "Infinitely." She rolled over, facing him. "You know the thing I never told you?" His eyebrow lifted. "There's something you haven't told me?" "I knew who you were at the gala," she said. "I just didn't care." He blinked, then broke into a grin. "You lied to me? I gave you the chance to show me who you were without the headlines." He kissed her, slow and deep, then rested his forehead against hers. "Thank you for seeing the man no one else ever bothered to. And thank you," she whispered, "for never trying to change the woman I already was." Outside, the wind picked up again, rustling the trees lining their block. But inside, everything was still. Certain. Safe. They had built something no storm could touch. And neither of them would ever walk away from it.